Hey everyone, welcome back to another tea video. Today we're coming at you with another tea from Yunnan sourcing. This is 2024 Naka Beauty Old Arbor Raw Pour Tea Cake. This is not part of the sampler I showed you guys before. This is part of a bigger order I made at a separate point in time. I haven't tried any of these yet either. You may recognize some things in here, you may not. But I'll be going through these at some point too eventually. Just decided to start with this one just because it sounded interesting. I will show you the tea on the website. It is a rather pricey tea, I would say. At least for a cake, 250 grams goes for $59.50. I don't know, you be the judge. It is a fresh 2024 raw Pu-erh. It is. How about I just read you the info on the site? So Naka Mountain is an area northern part of Mengsong area, north of Nanua Mountains. It is one of the higher altitude tea growing areas in Menghai County, reaching elevations of 2,100 meters. Our offering is from 100 plus year old trees growing at about 1950 to 2,000 meters. We have often encountered Naka trees, but up until now, I didn't feel moved to press one. Either the quality was not so good or the price was too high in relation to the quality. This is a spring 2024 first flush tea plucked in mid-April that was stored as Mao Cha in Menghai Town until we pressed it in December of 2024. This is a bitter tea with some Mengsong character, but also a high mountain fragrance and taste that reminds me somewhat of Lao Kong Dang Kong, but with a solid classical Pu-erh tea core, returning sweetness, potential cha chi, and golden tea soup. April harvest 2024 date, June 15th, 2024 pressing, 250 grams per cake, stone pressed in a traditional way, 70 kilos in total press, so 280 cakes. And as always with Yunnan sourcing, the tea is certified and tested for a bunch of pesticides and established by EU Food and Safety Commission, yada yada, which I'm sure that adds to the price. Yunnan sourcing is one of the few companies out there who test I think they test all their teas. So just something nice. If you're worried about pesticides, they test for 404. So as I said, one cake, $59.50. 25 gram sample, which is what I got, is $8.75. When putting together that it is 100 plus year old trees, high elevation, and it is a first flush spring harvest, as well as it is tested for all those pesticides, I'd say the price is probably warranted. Doesn't seem too pricey when you factor all that in. But right here, I have some set out just so you can see the leaves. See some green bits, see some white bits, gray bits. It's definitely a fresh pour. Looks pretty nice though. Also, there is what it looks like. There's the beauty for you. So yeah, it looks pretty nice. I'm real curious to try it. Maybe I'll buy a cake if I really like it. I did buy just a ton of samples from Yunnan sourcing just because I was curious about a lot of things, but I did buy a couple cakes as well. So let me get this into my Yixing teapot. This is dedicated to raw pour, and we will get started with that wash. I think while my water is heating, this would be a good chance to tell you about the dry leaf scent notes. That's something I often forget to do or don't do, but I'll do it this time. I think it's wise and probably worthwhile to do. A very nice smell on the nose. It's kind of floral with a bit of fruitiness. Definitely a green scent to it. Green as in you can tell it's a rather fresh tea. Not really getting any kind of astringent notes or anything that would lead me to think it's bitter or sour or any crazy flavors, but according to the descriptor, there is a good amount of bitterness on it, which, knowing raw Pu-erh, that's typically to be expected. But it smells really nice. A lot of floral notes for sure, and a little bit of fruitiness in there too, I feel. I do wonder if this tea will age well, or if it's one of those ones that just tastes way better fresh. Typically, they say with most Pu-erh, it all just gets better with age. So I'm sure it'd do well, right? Is there any Pu-erh out there you know that just doesn't age that well, or is better fresh? Let me know. Alright, so here is the wash, just to show you a comparison once I pour out my first steep. I did preheat all my teaware for this, and this first steep's gone for about 15 seconds. That wash was basically instant, maybe about 5 seconds. Some of this tea is off of a cake, obviously. It's a sample, but they chipped it off a cake. I chose to... There was a big chunk of cake in the package. I chose to grab all the smaller bits, the less compressed bits, so it would hopefully steep faster, be less of a pain. Let me pour out this first steep into the cup so you can see it. I did brew this first steep rather low. I think it was about 206 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't want to brew it at boiling straight off. I want to see if I can capture some of the natural sweetness the tea might have. So I like to start with a lower temp if I can help it. Here's what the leaves are looking like. I'll give you a smell profile on these wet leaves. Smell very nice. Very floral, a little fruity. A little green, a little vegetal, but definitely a very inviting smell for sure. And the color on this tea looks beautiful as well. It's like a deep golden color, very clear. A few little specks, but no big deal. It's not muddy or cloudy, so that is something to note. Plus, something like I said before, I grabbed all the little bits and dust and specks off the bag, not the big, nice looking piece. So that might contribute to the dust a bit as well. Of course, I am going to leave the lid off, as this is a raw pour. Don't want the leaves to get too hot and to burn, or scorch, or whatever. And we will give this a little taste. There's definitely a bitter note, but it's not overwhelming or overpowering. It's there, but it's mild. I think it's a very accessible tea. If you are new to raw Pu-erh, this definitely wouldn't be too much. Those floral notes and the little bit of fruity note still there in the flavor for sure. Definitely more floral. But overall, it's something unique and interesting, especially if you're wanting to try something different. You get that little bit of bitter note, you get a little bit of an astringent effect, a little bit of mouth drying. You get some floral, you get a little bit of like a green taste to it, like something kind of fresh. And you get a little slight fruitiness backing it up. It's really nice. They mention comparing it, saying it has a high mountain fragrance and reminds them of Lao Kong Dan Kong. Frankly, I have nothing to compare that to. I've had a lot of high mountain things in general, but I'm not sure what they mean by high mountain fragrance, nor do I have I had that type of tea they mention. I will say this is nice, and then it's mostly savory, I feel. But on the back of the tongue, as it's going down, and then there's kind of like a lingering aftertaste, and there's like a sweetness there. Really solid raw Pu-erh. Nothing like really off tasting about it. It's really inviting, really welcoming for a raw Pu-erh. If you're not into super bitter things, or maybe you're new to raw Pu-erh, I would definitely say this would be a good one to try. Reasonable quality. It's checked for pesticides. It's a spring pluck. It's pretty fresh. I like it a lot. Let me try a second steep. I'm gonna finish this. I'll do a second steep, and I'll try that, and I'll finish up with my thoughts. All right, here is the second steep. Keep in mind, I am brewing this at a bit of a lower temperature, just to hopefully accentuate the tea's sweetness as well as to avoid too much bitterness or astringency. So that may be why I am experiencing the flavors I have currently. So, obviously results may vary if you steep longer or higher temp or however you decide to treat the leaves. It's also a yeasting pot, so that could affect the flavor. Yeah, so, fiddle around if you do decide to try this. Try silver pot if you have it. Try Yixing pot. Try normal porcelain, I tend to, with raw Pu-erh, I like to start at a lower temp, just to get as much sweetness and a little bitterness as possible, and then as I continue on with my steeps, maybe around steep 3 or 4, I up the temp, and eventually by the end I do end up at boiling. So that's how I prefer to do it, but let me know if you prefer to do it a different way. Different teas obviously require different methods. Like for show Pu-erh, I usually just do boiling the whole way through, and I don't pay a ton of attention to time, whereas with raw Pu-erh, I try to watch time pretty well and try to pay attention to temp as well. But still looking really nice, still super golden, super clear. Alright, let's give this a taste. Ooh, yeah, the bitterness definitely strengthened a little. That first steep, it was barely there, barely noticeable. Now it's definitely quite present. Definitely interesting. It's still not super astringent, not super mouth drying. It doesn't make you like pucker or anything, but it is there, and that bitterness is definitely more present now. I'd say that's the probably more predominant tasting note as of right now. Wow. Still quite floral. I think that fruitiness is completely gone now. Not really getting any vegetal note as of now either. Yeah, just that bitterness. It's definitely interesting. I don't think up to this point I've had a tea in general where that was the predominant note. I don't necessarily dislike it. It's just different. But I imagine this tea is going to continue progressing in different ways that I don't expect. Maybe that bitterness will get stronger or calm down. As of now, yeah, bitter and savory, a lot of floral, and then not really mouth drying at first, but my mouth is beginning to dry out, and then on the back of the tongue, a little bit of sweetness and like a pretty strong lingering aftertaste. Definitely interesting. If you're not a fan of bitter, definitely not for you. I don't necessarily dislike it. I think floral and bitter go quite well together. Fruity goes well with those as well, in my opinion. I think that's why I like the style of beer IPA are somewhat popular. Quite bitter on the forward, and they tend to be floral and fruity as well. Yeah, definitely an interesting tea that I'm glad I got to try. I'm still thinking about maybe buying a cake of it. I am curious to how it'll age. I do imagine those bitter notes will calm down over time. The floral notes probably will as well, though. I think those are usually the first thing to go is the bitter and floral. But maybe the fruitiness and sweetness will come out more if you age it. So, yeah, I'd be curious to see that. So maybe I'll buy one and just let it sit for a few years. But, yeah, this is pretty interesting tea. I think that's all I have to say today. So, thanks for watching. It's been Talon. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more tea content, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. See ya.